This has proven to be a rather challenging essay to compose due to the vast and detailed subject matter. Though far-reaching, the subjects covered are all related. For clarity and to better grasp the understanding of this thesis, you should liken the following far-reaching content, connections, and associations to an enormous spider web spread far and wide, but where all of the individual strands of these elongated webs ultimately lead to the middle and the center of Illuminism. Secrets of the Ages is the result of 6 years of extensive research into the esoteric and exoteric. The information contained herein is all sourced, documented, and verifiable. Though sweeping in scope, there are clear and concise connections, coincidences, and some immutable facts presented. It is for you to come to your own conclusions, but before you do, put aside your preconceived notions of history and belief systems and take a serious, objective look at the material presented. In the late 1930s, the major tax-exempt foundations, Ford, Rockefeller, began contributing large amounts to the Council. In 1938, they created various committees on the Council on Foreign Relations through the country, funded by a grant from the Carnegie Corporation. Influential men were to be chosen in a number of cities and would then be brought together for discussions in their own communities, as well as participating in an annual conference in New York. These local committees served to influence local leaders and shape public opinion to build support for the Council's policies for world government. The Council on Foreign Relations was a critical factor in the creation of the United Nations after World War II. At the same time, Project Paperclip was enacted to covertly smuggle the best and brightest Nazi scientists and doctors into our government. The rise of the counterculture is certainly not a coincidence. In fact, LSD counterculture guru Timothy Leary of Berkeley credits the CIA with starting the consciousness awareness movement. In the 1960s, the CIA gave LSD to over 200 psychologists at more than 50 colleges and universities nationwide to experiment with. The CIA's MKUltra goal was to create the perfect spy, an assassin who could be programmed to kill but would have no recollection of the act. Interestingly, Sirhan Sirhan, RFK's assassin, has no recollection of killing RFK to this day. Sirhan, along with John Hinckley, who shot President Reagan, and Mark David Chapman, who killed John Lennon, and Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh, all fit the profile of MKUltra programmed killers. Do not be naive. There is absolutely undeniable documented proof that men can be programmed to kill. Interesting side note. After Reagan was shot by John Hinckley Jr., the following appeared in the Associated Press on March 31, 1981. Scott Hinckley, brother of John W. Hinckley Jr., who allegedly shot Reagan, was to have dined tonight in Denver at the home of Neil Bush, one of the vice president's sons. Scott Hinckley is vice president of his father's Denver-based firm, Vanderbilt Energy Corp. Neil Bush lives in Denver, where he works for Standard Oil of Indiana. In 1978, Neil served as campaign manager for his brother, George W. Bush, the vice president's oldest son, who made an unsuccessful bid for Congress. Neil lived in Lubbock through much of 1978, where John Hinckley lived from 1974 through 1980. Sharon Bush, Neil's wife, said, "From what I know and I've heard, they, the Hinkleys, are a very nice family and have given a lot of money to the Bush campaign." On March 31, 1981, UPI reported George W. Bush lived in Lubbock in 1978 and ran unsuccessfully for Congress. Police have said John Hinckley Jr. lived in Lubbock at that same time and once attended Texas Tech University. John Frankenheimer's 1962 classic, The Manchurian Candidate, is a perfect example of predictive programming. It reveals MKUltra programming in a fictitious plot of a soldier who was mind-controlled to kill the president. The plot proved to be eerily prophetic, revealing a very plausible truth on November 22, 1963. Another very creepy connected coincidence is that John Frankenheimer was president when RFK was assassinated. In fact, Frankenheimer approached RFK to film his entire campaign. On the night of June 6, 1968, Frankenheimer drove RFK to the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles, where RFK was shot and killed by Sirhan Sirhan after winning the California primary for president. Another coincidence is that Frankenheimer and RFK had dinner that evening with director Roman Polanski and his wife Sharon Tate. Other covert CIA operations like Project MK Often were developed in conjunction with the Department of Defense as a partner program to MK Search. The goal of MK Often was to, quote, test the behavioral and toxicological effects of certain drugs on animals and humans. CIA's Operation Often was initiated by the chief of the CIA's Technical Services Branch, Dr. Sidney Gottlieb, to, quote, explore the world of black magic and harness the forces of darkness and challenge the concept that the inner reaches of the mind are beyond reach, end quote. As part of Operation Often, Dr. Gottlieb and other CIA employees visited with and recruited fortune tellers, palm readers, clairvoyants, astrologers, mediums, psychics, specialists in demonology, witches and wizards, Satanists, and other occult practitioners. Tying this all together, you can see the eerie connections between art imitating life and a revolving cast of characters. Judge for yourselves. There can be no doubt that the rise of the counterculture and the rise of satanic influence, Miley Cyrus debauchery, and general moral decline in Hollywood and the music industry is not a coincidence. Satan rules Hollywood and the music industry. The products are getting darker every day. Pop culture has been embracing evil with very influential horror movies exploring powerful satanic themes since the 1960s, all with the guidance of Project Mockingbird and MK Ultra mind control programming. Pop culture has evolved into a celebration of depravity, glaringly apparent in music videos, movies, and television. Something evil for everyone, on every level. But like a secret society that hides in plain sight, the sheeple are unaware of the deception. In fact, they embrace it. They love it, and pay dearly to have it, happily paying for their own enslavement. In The Final Revolution, Aldous Huxley of the Tavistock Institute wrote, quote, a really efficient totalitarian state would be one in which the all-powerful executive of political bosses and their army of managers control a population of slaves who do not have to be coerced because they love their servitude. There will be, in the next generation or so, a pharmacological method of making people love their servitude and producing a dictatorship without tears, so to speak, producing a kind of painless concentration camp for entire societies, so the people will in fact have their liberties taken away from them, but will rather enjoy it, because they will be distracted from any desire to rebel by propaganda or brainwashing enhanced by pharmacological methods. And this seems to be the final revolution. End quote. In the modern era, today there is deafening silent consent, public disinterest and indifference of society's problems, putting all energies into fighting only symptoms, while ignoring the root cause of the disease. We are under assault 24/7 with images, advertisements, messages designed to deceive and divert us from the truth. It would be overly simplistic to blame Satan for all that has happened. Individuals commit these evil, sadistic, and blasphemous acts, but the puppeteers want to terrify and confuse the populace to lay blame on a non-human entity, another patsy, another scapegoat relinquishing actual evildoers from the accountability of their actions. Even LaVey's Church of Satan is a campy, Munsters-inspired Hollywood-style theatrical comedy compared to the real power players on the world stage. So who are the real power players? They are the families of the black nobility, the 13 bloodline families, the Committee of 300, the Illuminati and their creed, all secret societies and orders who work together without a secret handshake or password. Yet they are secret cabals, involving those at the highest echelons of society, working in concert for a new world order. This small group of only a handful of men are the true puppet masters, controlling and avoiding any and all notice or media attention. They are quiet, dictating from behind the scenes, rather like a director watching the world unfold on a screen in a movie he has written the script for. By distorting and corrupting ancient esoteric teachings to fit their needs, these rulers have given themselves a loose moral code to justify their actions. They have usurped true science, which was inspired by the laws of nature, to create toxic byproducts to elevate their wealth and power. Deadly products, deadly drugs, deadly truth. The masses deemed profane and unworthy of the truth by these elite, adept puppeteers, merely bewildered spectators at a sick puppet show, not even realizing they are watching puppets who make their laws and regulations while taking away their rights and their wealth. For this reason, it is important to lift the curtain and see what is happening behind the scenes of this puppet show, to see and face the men behind the curtain, the so-called rulers of us all, the illumined holders of the world's wealth and the secrets of the ages. Once revealed to the light of truth, these elitists will wither and die like the vampiric, blood-sucking Satanist scum that they are. I pray that humanity awakens to the psychopathic puppeteers pulling the strings. Humanity must snap out of the mass media mind-controlled world we are living in and see the world as it truly is, so we can stop the wrecking ball from descending on our rights and freedoms. While the sheeple have been busy with their lives and their distractions, the elite have crafted an urban war zone, a high-tech, high-surveillance, high-security police state. Their crafty and nefarious intention is to install a one-world totalitarian socialist government where all aspects of human life are under their control. Not enough of us are paying attention as our God-given individual inalienable rights and our national sovereignty is being threatened with extinction due to bogus laws, regulations, and trade deals designed to enslave us. Interdependence instead of independence. Globalist-favored treaties and United Nations Agenda 21 global initiatives and protocols. It all boils down to bondage without chains, prisons without bars, but it is nonetheless, and no less than, slavery.